A section is a military sub-subunit in some armies. In many armies, it might be a squad of 2 to 3 fireteams. However, in France and armies based on the French model, it is the subdivision of a company. Commonwealth Australian Army. Under the new structure of the infantry platoon, sections are made up of 8 men divided into 2 4-man fireteams. Each fireteam consists of a team leader, a marksman with enhanced optics, a grenadier with an M203 and an LSW operator with an F-89 Minimi light support weapon. Typical fireteam structure. At the start of World War I, the Australian Army used a section that consisted of 27 men, including the section commander, who was a non-commissioned officer holding the rank of sergeant. During World War II, a rifle section comprised 10 soldiers with a corporal in command with a lance corporal as his second-in-command. The corporal used an M1928 Thompson submachine guns, while one of the privates used a Bren gun. The other 8 soldiers all used No. 1 Mk3 Lee Enfield rifles with a bayonet and scabbard. They all carried 2 or 3 No. 36 mils bomb grenades. Post-World War II and indicative for the Vietnam War, a rifle section consisted of 10 personnel comprising a command and scout group, a gun group and a rifle group. British Army. The British Army section now consists of 8 soldiers made up of a corporal as the section commander, a lance corporal as his second-in-command and 6 privates. 3 sections together form a platoon. In conventional warfare, the section is split into 2 4-man fire teams, commanded by the corporal and lance corporal respectively. Second World War and after, the rifle section of a Second World War infantry battalion was generally formed of 10 men, a corporal as the section leader with 6 privates with Lee Enfield rifles forming a rifle group, and a light machine gun group of a lance corporal, a gunner with the Bren gun and a loader carrying a spare barrel and extra ammunition. With the switch from .303 to 7.62 mm NATO in the 1950s until the introduction of 5.56 mm caliber weapons in the late 1980s. The typical section was armed with and organized around the 7.62 mm L7 GPMG. The section was typically divided into 2 groups, a rifle group and a gun group. The rifle group comprised the section commander with an L1A1 SLR, the anti-tank gunner with the 84mm Carl Gustaf and a 9mm SMG, the anti-tank number 2 with spare 84mm rounds and an L1A1 and 2 riflemen with L1A1s. The gun group was commanded by the Section 2 IC with an L1A1, and comprised the gunner with the GPMG and the gun number 2 with an L1A1. All section tactics were basically designed to bring the gun to bear on the enemy and support the gun, once the gun had suppressed the enemy. The rifle group would assault and destroy the enemy position with the gun providing fire until the last safe moment. This organization was abandoned in favor of fireteams when 5.56 mm assault rifles and saws were introduced in the late 1980s. These were the L85IW and the longer-barreled L86 LSW. The firepower of the team has now been extended by the L110AY LMG. The LSW is now generally used as a designated marksman's rifle, and the LMG is the belt-fed weapon for laying down suppressing fire. Each fire team has 2 IW, 1 with an underslung grenade launcher, 1 LSW and 1 LMG. Current organization in infantry section now consists of Charlie Fireteam, Corporal, armed with an L85A2 5.56 mm rifle. Rifleman, armed with an L85A2 5.56 mm rifle with 40 mm underslung grenade launcher. Rifleman, armed with an L110A1 5.56 mm light machine gun. Rifleman, armed with an L86A2 5.56 mm light support weapon. Delta Fireteam. Lance Corporal, armed with an L85A2 5.56 mm rifle. Rifleman, armed with an L85A2 5.56 mm rifle with 40 mm underslung grenade launcher. Rifleman, armed with an L110A1 5.56 mm light machine gun. Rifleman, armed with an L86A2 5.56 mm light support weapon. Some units operating in Afghanistan reintroduced the GPMG as a section gun, on the scale of 1 per fireteam, meaning that only 2 L85A2s were carried per section and both are fitted with the UGL. This practice may be altered following the introduction of the L129A1 sharpshooter rifle, bringing 7.62 mm weapons back to section level in recognition that the 5.56 mm proved inadequate in Afghanistan. The L86A2 LSW is now almost entirely unused by infantry sections, due to the implementation of the L110A1 and L129A1 sharpshooter rifle. Laws are also an option as a secondary weapon for anti-structure roles, and the javelin can also be carried for anti-armor. Fireteams can be split into smaller subdivisions if needed, and these are likely designated Alpha and Bravo respectively. Canadian Forces. The Canadian Army also uses the section, which is roughly the same as its British counterpart, except that it is led by a sergeant, with a master corporal as the second in command. The section is further divided into assault groups, which are equivalent to the British fireteams. They are designated Assault Group 1 and Assault Group 2. Assault groups are broken down to even smaller fireteams, normally consisting of 2 soldiers, designated Alpha, Bravo, Charlie and Delta. Alpha and Bravo make up Assault Group 1, Charlie and Delta make up Assault Group 2. The section commander will have overall control of the section, and is assigned to Assault Group 1, Alpha Team. His second-in-command will be in command of Assault Group 2, and is assigned to Delta Team. In a normal rifle section, the focus is around the pair of C9 LMGs that are carried by Bravo and Delta teams, one in each team. This results in a formation of Bravo, Alpha, Charlie, Delta, with Bravo and Delta providing fire support with the C9s. Alpha as the command element and Charlie as the assault team. Danish Army. In the Danish Army, the section consists of 2 squads, usually commanded by a sergeant first class. Sections are usually highly specialized support units providing heavy weapons support, EOD support etc. French Army. In the French Army, a section is the subdivision of a company in traditional foot arms. In traditionally horse-mounted arms of the French Army, the subdivision of a company is a peloton. The French equivalent of the British Army section is called a groupe de combat. French squads are divided into a 300-meter fireteam armed with FAMAS 5.56 mm assault rifles and carrying an 84 anti-tank weapon, and a 600-meter fireteam with an FN Minimi, another FAMAS and a personal grenade launcher. Singapore Army. Singapore Army's infantry section consists of 7 men led by a 3rd sergeant and assisted by a corporal as 2IC. The section is divided into a 3-man group, which includes the section commander, and 2 2-man groups. The weapons carried include 2 light anti-tank weapons, 2 section automatic weapons, and 2 grenade launchers. United States Armed Forces. United States Army. Historically, a section of U.S. infantry was a half platoon. The section was led by a sergeant assisted by 1 or 2 corporals and consisted of a total of from 12 to 24 soldiers, depending on the time period. In the U.S. cavalry, a section was roughly equivalent to a squad in the U.S. infantry. In armored cavalry, mechanized infantry, and striker infantry units, a section consists of 2 tanks, armored vehicles, with 2 sections to a platoon. The platoon leader leads one section and the platoon sergeant leads the other. Some branches, such as air defense artillery and field artillery, use the term section to denote a squad-sized unit that may act independently of each other in the larger platoon formation. The section is used as an administrative formation and may be bigger than the regular squad formation, often overseen by a staff sergeant. United States Marine Corps. The USMC employs sections as intermediate tactical echelons in infantry, armored vehicle units, and low-altitude air defense units, and is the base tactical element in artillery units. Infantry sections can consist of as few as 8 Marines to as many as 32 in an 81 mm mortar section. In headquarters, service, and support units throughout the USMC, sections are used as functional subunits of headquarters or platoons. For example, the intelligence section of a battalion or squadron headquarters, the communications electronics maintenance section, communication platoon, regimental headquarters company, armory section, marine aviation logistics squadron. In marine aircraft squadrons, section is also used to designate a flight of 2 or 3 aircraft under the command of a designated section leader. Some sections, such as weapons platoon sections, are led by a staff non-commissioned officer, usually a staff sergeant. Tank and other armored vehicle sections, as well as service and support sections, may be led by either an officer, usually a lieutenant, or SNCO, ranging from staff sergeant to master sergeant. Headquarters and aircraft sections are always led by a commissioned officer. In infantry units, weapons platoons have sections consisting of the squads and teams that man the crew-served weapons. Weapons platoon, rifle company. A machine gun section, consisting of a section leader and 3 machine gun squads, each containing 2 machine gun teams of 3 men each. A LWCMS mortar section, consisting of a section leader and 3 60 mm mortar squads, each containing 1 mortar and 4-man crew. An assault section, consisting of a section leader and 3 assault squads, each containing 2 assault teams of 2 men each. Weapons company, infantry battalion. An 81 mm mortar platoon, consisting of a 5-man platoon headquarters and 2 81 mm mortar sections. Each section containing 4 81 mm mortar squads of 6 men each and an 8-man section headquarters. An anti-armor platoon, consisting of a 3-man platoon headquarters and a javelin section, containing a section leader and 2 javelin squads, each having 2 teams of 2 men each, and an anti-tank section, containing a section leader and 4 anti-tank squads, each having a squad leader and 2 tow teams of 2 men each. A heavy machine gun platoon, consisting of a 4-man platoon headquarters and 3 HMG sections, each having 2 HMG squads of 4 men each. In armored vehicle units, platoons consist of sections consisting of individual vehicles and their crews. Tank and light armored reconnaissance platoons consist of 2 sections, each containing 2 tanks, light armored vehicles and crews. Assault amphibian vehicle platoons consist of 4 sections, each containing 3 AAVs and crews. Combat engineer assault breacher sections consist of 2 CEV assault breacher vehicles and crews. In low-altitude air defense batteries, the firing platoons consist of 3 sections, each consisting of a section leader and 5 2-man Stinger missile teams. In artillery batteries, the firing platoon consists of a platoon headquarters and 6 artillery sections, each containing a section chief 8-member gun crew with 1 howitzer, and a driver and prime mover. The gun crew consists of a gunner, 2 assistant gunners, and 5 cannoneers. Other. In some air forces, a section is also a unit containing 2 or 3 aircraft, commanded by a lieutenant. The USAF uses the term element in lieu of section to designate units of 2 or 3 aircraft in air flight. In the German Luftwaffe in the Second World War, this would have been called a rotor. Two sections made up a flight, called a Schwarm, with 3 flights, along with headquarters and support personnel, comprising a Staffel. A section is also the name for a shift or team of police officers in various police forces, particularly in the Commonwealth. The term is no longer used in the British police, in which it originated and where it was the group of officers headed by a sergeant.